Loot boxes have been plaguing the game industry for quite some time now, and there seems to be no end in sight. It's safe to say that it's a bigger problem now than it was, well, now than ever before. At one point in time, loot boxes were things you'd only see in like free-to-play mobile games. But as you and I both know, they've kind of oozed their way over into damn near every game. A lot of games. Not damn near every. Quite a lot of games. A lot of games that they have no business being in. What a time we live in when you can spend $60 on a game, $40 plus on DLC, and still not have all the content. It's absolutely absurd. We have often seen game companies compare loot boxes to things like trading cards and any other randomly assorted like physical items. For the sake of this, I'm going to use Magic cards because I currently play Magic, used to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Till that game turned to shit. But yeah, I'm going to show you why this comparison is bullshit. First and most obvious is when I buy Magic cards, I get a physical product. I can get the choice of buying the cards I want directly. I can just buy them off of the websites, the cards I know I want. So there's no chance in me not getting what I want. Or, you know, even if I do buy packs of cards and get random ones, I can do whatever I want with those cards because they're physical items that I own. I can sell them. I can trade them to someone and get cards that I do want, and then they get cards they want, the roughly equal value. There's all that going on for it. Like, you can use it as a coaster, you can draw on it, you can, you know, put it up on your wall, you can just fire starter, I don't know. Whatever. It's a physical item. You can do whatever you want with it, and that's a lot more than I can say for loot boxes. The only thing you can do with a loot box is whatever the game says you can do with it, which is normally just open the loot box and cross your fingers you get what you want. And you can't trade those items with other players, because if they did that, then you'd be able to trade with someone and you both get the stuff you want, and people will stop buying loot boxes. Yeah, it's not going to happen. The second difference here is that there's a limit to how many Magic cards I can buy. Let's say I'm addicted to this card in particular, Crucible of Worlds. I don't know. I love that it's an artifact. The artwork on it looks amazing. It's won me 100 games. It's a great combo piece. I don't know. Pick a reason, whatever. I'm addicted to the card. It's amazing. I'm in love with it, right? There's only so many copies of that card that I can buy. I can only buy so many copies of the card online. I can only hit up so many local, you know, game or card shops, right, and buy all their copies. And once I have all that, once I do all that, if I have that big of a problem, that's it. I can't buy any more of that card. It's gone. It's done, right? Loot boxes, you can buy any number of, there's no end in sight. There's an infinite number of loot boxes. You could ruin your entire life buying loot boxes if you have an addiction problem and you just can't stop buying those things. The third point I'll make here is how easy it is to buy a loot box by comparison to buying Magic cards or literally any physical product, right? So there's a lot of steps I go through, right? I would shower. Not a necessary step, but a highly recommended one. I would shower, I'd get dressed, I go to the store, I have to find the cards or whatever item I'm looking for, go to the register, put my card into the little chip reader or put cash at the machine, and I'd have to, you know, bag all the stuff, walk out, right? There's a lot of things in there. With that much time, there's a lot of moments where you could just think to yourself as like, man, this is a lot to go through just to pick up some cards. Or maybe you'll have an epiphany where it's just like, man, I really have a problem here. I'm doing this quite a bit just to get some cards. There's a lot of time for you to catch yourself in what you're doing. Or maybe you go do all that and you look at the receipt and you're like, damn, I spent how much money? And, you know, if you don't use a card, maybe you put cash in there and you physically see yourself putting the cash in the machine or, like, you know, handing the cash to the cashier, and you can actually physically, visibly see the money you're spending. You can see it leaving your hands, right? So you can definitely catch yourself spending a lot of money doing that. With the loot boxes and microtransactions, you don't get that. Everything is just like a couple clicks away and it's done, and the transactions are so small that you don't think anything of it, right? I spend $1 on a loot box. I open it, it's crap. I'm like, you know what? It's only $1. You spend another $1, you get another loot box. It doesn't have what you want. And you're like, it's only $1. And you keep repeating this process until you realize you spent, 20, 30, $50, maybe even more. You spent a lot more money than you had originally planned on spending just to get things you didn't want. It adds up. Finally, when I buy a box of magic cards, there is a guarantee that I'll pull a certain number of cards that have like high rarity, right? If I buy a box of magic cards, there's a guarantee I'm going to get a certain number of mythics, I'm going to get a certain number of rare cards, and if I buy decks, then they're pre-constructed. I know exactly what I'm getting when I buy those, right? With loot boxes, that's not the case. I mean, it's kind of more of a game-by-game thing. Sometimes they'll tell you the chances of pulling a certain rare item, but there's like no guarantee if I buy a certain number of loot boxes that I am going to get an item of the highest possible rarity. Again, more of a game-by-game thing, but you get my point. It's more up to chance. You're just paying money to roll the dice. And I guess that's the whole idea behind loot boxes, right? You spend money to get the tiniest chance to open up a really rare item that you want that holds literally no value. You guys remember how in Rush Hour 2 they opened up that casino that took everyone's real money and just gave them a bunch of fake counterfeit money? That's what loot boxes are. And don't let these game companies try to tell you anything different.